has a 100-word summary of all the trouble you guys got into last week?
I couldn't type quickly, and therefore Treble got arrested.
Gus did nothing wrong.
I
didn't.
That remains to be seen.
Well, if you haven't done anything wrong, why did you get arrested?
I mean, because there's not a legal system per se in Dunfoss.
On the plus side, the person accusing you doesn't have any, like, house or standing.
Clout.
When you say you didn't do anything wrong, do you mean morally or, like, actionally? Because you got yourself arrested.
I mean...
That's wrong.
So, like, okay, so what you're saying is, the way Seeker sees it, is if I didn't get arrested, like, the only thing I did wrong was get arrested.
Right.
So I got caught. Therefore, that was the thing that I did wrong.
Caught. That implies that what you did was wrong to begin with. I'm not willing to make that kind of judgment.
We also established that Gus is not willing to massage the truth a little bit.
Apparently not.
No, we established drunk Gus is not willing to massage the truth. Regular Gus I can usually get through to.
Well, we also established I won't sell you guys out. I think that's the most positive takeaway from it.
Now my only goal for the rest of this campaign is to concoct a scenario where Gus has to sell you guys out. Gonna devote all of my DM resources and all of my planning schedule.
When I'm not gonna lie, when that happened, I was 100% convinced. I'm like, I'm gonna have to roll up some kind of interim character while Gus freaking sits it out in jail for the next 2 years.
Breaking blocks into smaller blocks.
If you sell out Seeker, you better get something good. I don't want to hear any of this penny ante shit.
If I sell out Seeker, I'll make sure he gets a cut.
Like, what if he sells out Seeker and what he gets is a trip to Coldstone?
Coldstone Prison?
Yeah, that sounds like it could be a place.
Yeah, no, that absolutely is a place now.
I think there actually is a prison called Coldstone Prison. That, or it's just something like I've seen in a movie once. One of the two.
I can't help but think that Brick Road was always trying to drop a line to Carcerai throughout the Planescape campaign.
Not to derail more, but even like being the Planescape kind of expert that I am, to this day I'm not convinced you can actually use Carcerai as written in a legitimate adventure. You either have to make the whole campaign based around Carcerai. It's not just like a quick adventure trip.
No.
I used to feel that way about Pandemonium too, but I proved myself wrong.
And Destil did a thing.
No visitation in Carcerai.
Carcerai, to put the biggest, shortest summary possible, you can go in, but you can't leave.
Right.
There's no way out.
It's Hotel California. Right,
Yeah.
Gotcha.
There you go. I think that's what it's actually called in the first edition books. Carcerai is the location of Tartarus, where the Olympians imprisoned the Titans. Anyway, Dunfoss is not Carcerai, as far as I know.
I mean,
Plot twist.
It may well be. So yeah, the morning of the 24th, so Seekers brought back to life penalties are reduced by 1 and will be gone tomorrow morning, if I'm not mistaken.
One additional thing happened that I want to bring up because Lucius was almost cool when he did it. He scared the crap out of Irving, and then he was like, "Surprise! It is me, Lucius!" And then I go, "Oh, it's just Lucius."
Got some kind of darkness spell. I get it.
I'm great. I'm glad that you guys appreciate a good dunking on Lucius because that's apparently all he's good for these days.
No, it was legitimately cool, and then you were like, I was like, no, don't do it. I'm sitting there with my mic muted, going, don't do it. I know you're gonna do it. Don't do it. Don't do it, and you did it.
Lucius is just a genuine man.
I know. I get the idea that like Lucius just likes.
He wants you to pee your pants, and he wants you to
He
know
wants you-
that he made you do it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
no, that's pretty much exactly why he did that.
I know that's why you did it, and I'm like, no, don't do it. Don't do it. No. Oh.
So what you're saying is you wanted Lucius to massage the truth.
The player and the character are two different people,
Oh, okay.
and also
Mm-hmm.
Death of the artist, right? I got it. I understand.
listen.
Rules for me, not for thee. Is that it?
No, listen. Like if we could somehow get Lucius's parents killed, then he'd be like one step closer to being Batman.
Fucking.
That's true
No.
for everybody, though. Like,
Thanks, Treble.
if we could get him to wear a white skirt and stand over a grate, we're going to be one step closer to being Marilyn Monroe.
That's true.
Excuse me, commissioning new artwork.
I can't picture Lucius doing that, but I have no difficulty picturing Adrix doing that. Just
Oh, absolutely.
his skirt
It
blowing
would be
up,
his idea. What are you talking about?
making like an
Oh, I get to
oopsie
put on the
face.
skirt. Rad.
Like, I just picture that conversation in my head, like something. There's some scheme going on where Razu has to wear the skirt and she refuses to do it. So Adrix is like, ooh, ooh, ooh. And he just
Yeah.
That's good.
Razu just stoically like, I will not conform to your gender roles. And Adric's like, me neither!
On it.
Wendy just sat to the side. I want to wear this skirt.
It's the morning of the 24th. Great Tables Park is this little green section here. It's inside the walls. And unfortunately, I didn't have time. Remember, Nodal, when you were saying how to type stuff in a text file and then like end up closing down Notepad and not save it?
Yeah.
I did that with the first draft of the map that I was making of Great Tables Park for this week.
Great.
So I didn't remake it.
Relatable.
So wait, just zoom like way in. Like I'm doing here. This is an area of the city that it's predominantly public space. Very few businesses, almost no residentials or anything of the nature here, and a lot of it's wide open. So like little impromptu marketplaces do pop up from time to time. But this is where, say, Percival Penniless spends a lot of his time kind of proselytizing to the people about how they are the oppressed, trodden upon underclass and how the nobility needs to be overthrown and all this. If you recall, in the Shallows, there's a place in the Shallows called the Stomp Box, which has kind of the same feature. Great Tables Park is a much larger version of that. Right next to Great Tables Park is an elevated road, so you can pass underneath it, but there's also great stairs leading up to it, called the King's Walk in the Palace District. If you've ever seen a movie or a game or something where like the king is addressing the crowd of people, that would be King's Walk overlooking Great Tables Park. Because the massive crowds can congregate here in the park, in the area, and then the king and his entourage can stand on the King's Walk and speak to the people. That's where this scene would take place. And this is also where Gus is to be put in the stocks for 2 days.
I mean, at least I'm not alone. The other guys in the stocks too.
Gus,
Yep.
you are to present... I mean, just living in Dunfoss, you're going to know all of what this entails. Basically, they're going to lock you up in rags. No weapons, no armor, no spell focus. They're going to clap your head and hands down, leave you there for 2 days, 2 nights, and the public is going to jeer you and boo you and do what they will.
Sure.
Up to and including throwing literal shit.
Eh.
And you're not going to
Okay.
get any experience for any of this.
I feel like I got robbed of experience from that fight with the other guy, but
It feels like this is going to be an experience. So it feels like
Uh-huh.
it should give you some experience. But it doesn't.
right.
Because the world's not fair.
Writing down give Gus experience or stock.
So as the sun comes up, I'm assuming you're reporting for this with no fanfare, no rebellion. You're not going to fight the...
No, I mean I was in jail. It's not like I'm reporting from the house.
Okay.
They just marched me down there to do it, didn't they?
Well, that's what I mean. Like, you're going to...
No.
I mean, you're a big guy. You probably have a better stat block than the guards who are escorting you.
Nah. I'd probably like trying to chat up the guards. You know, just like, hey, hi, let's get this over with. Hi.
They have no desire to talk to you. Because you're just a common street thug. They're going to lock up in some stocks for a couple of days. They do this all the time.
I am not a common street thug. I'm a 5th level
Well,
street thug.
you have 2 days and 2 nights to convince the population of Dunfoss of that.
6th level street thug.
And they do. They clap you, and then, I don't know, a couple meters away from you across the way is the big guy who you were tussling with in the street, and they clap him down as well.
Yep.
What are the rest of you doing on the 24th?
See, so what are we going to give? What are we giving Corey Fireblood? Are we giving him money or are we giving him information?
Do we have information to give him?
Yeah, that's my question.
I don't have
because
any information.
I don't recall that we had any. I recall that we were going to give him some information, and then in lieu of that, because somebody decided to bring a boy toy home, and
Now, to be clear,
And-
Choreo's not due today. Choreo's not due until next week.
oh, next week. Okay, then.
This is
then
your
this
off
isn't
week for
as
Choreo.
pressing. This isn't as pressing then.
Do
Because
we have any?
oh, go ahead.
Do we have any threads we want to investigate about Choreo that have popped up?
What was the most recent thing that we had found out? Was it related to the merfolk, or was it because the most recent thing was the coin?
Yeah, I think that's the most
Is it
recent.
really?
Yeah, I think that was the
Yeah.
most thing was the coin.
That was a while ago at this point.
And I don't think
Was it
we've told him
Gifts?
about the coin yet.
We haven't told him about the coin?
No.
No.
Alright. That should be our thing then.
Yeah, we can hold that in our back pocket. We can tell him, hey, we're investigating this coin. Furthermore, we have an invitation to do so to speak to the sister of the king.
Mm-hmm.
And that sounds like a good thing to throw him. Hey, we're following this point.
Okay. Good to know. Excellent. Then, in that case, what I want to do is Lucius wants to go to East Harbor to the Keyskin Embassy.
Okay.
This is my own personal project, so nobody
To
feel
what
pressured
end?
to come
What are
with.
we looking to accomplish?
To try and make some inroads with some of the people there to carry out my father's wishes to get some eyes inside the embassy.
Okay. How are you doing this?
Carousing, rubbing elbows. Actually, so that's probably not what they would expect from this dumb this really well-meaning but idiotic son of a Keyskin noble.
So, I mean, a couple options that you have is you might pursue magical means of divination that you can install inside the embassy. You can try to like buy somebody's loyalty who is already there. You can try to hire somebody and then get them a job there. You can try to install yourself there yourself.
See, I don't think I want to do that last option. I think I want to buy someone's loyalty.
Okay.
Case.
I can maybe help you with this if you take me on a visit.
Sure.
What is Florian doing on the 24th?
Florian did his dumb shit with the Flumph statue.
Yeah, that's taken care of.
Man, I gotta think of another dumb thing I want Florian to do. Florian will pick up the potions and probably just stay at the barge for the time being. Unless Alexander's doing something interesting.
Well, in a 24-hour period, you guys can take 3 shifts on the riddle book, if you so choose.
Yeah.
You want to take your riddle book shot then?
I sure do. Oh yeah, here we go. Riddle book time.
This is gonna be like a fucking phenomenal roll. This is gonna be like a 20.
It's going to be an intelligence check, DC 10.
Intelligence. All right.
You're a wizard! Like...
That is, that's a 17.
Alright, so you solve 7 riddles. Bring
Wow.
you guys down to 46.
I was half
Florian
expecting
solved riddles.
negative riddles.
That's not bad, spending 8 hours and getting 7 solves. Like, that's
Florian's
good.
actually adding riddles to the book.
Who's taking the other 2 riddle shifts today?
I'll take the night shift
So let's get a roll
because
from
I have something
Seeker
to do in the next 8 hours.
and a roll from Alex.
Yep.
$17.
17. So that brings us down to 59, or I'm sorry, 39. And let's get a roll from Seeker.
Oof, that's the bad roll. That's an 8.
2
got
more
nothing
riddles
done.
appear on the book
Yeah.
out of nowhere. They just coalesce.
I've gotten to the point where
What?
I can only work now when Florian's there. He's broken my brain.
So what is Seeker wants to accomplish? Or,
Okay,
you're
so-
going to the embassy with Lucius at some point, but what else would you like
Yeah,
to do?
I'm going to the embassy with Lucius at some point just because I want to see the place, literally. I have 2 other stops. I want to stop by Caitlin Chubb's house, and I want to copy the clairvoyant spell from her book.
Before we go any further with that, Lucius, have you shared your father's letter with your other detectives? Like, do they know what your dad wants to do? And is this
I will
like...
put it forward to the group because Lucius says we do know that whoever the new ambassador is apparently in the pocket of the flying pig. Therefore, in that regard, my father's interests and ours do align. Could only help us by having eyes in the embassy.
What
So, is
what
this-
exact connection do we know between the new ambassador and the flying pig?
All I know is that the flying pig had that this new ambassador, whoever it is in his pocket.
Right, like where did we find that out? Sorry.
Out of character. This is the situation where Lucius got a woman arrested, and Lucius is not keen to revisit that.
So like Lucius just kind of like Lucius seems very confident of the information, but is kind of like vague on how exactly he
On the
found it out.
details, yeah, exactly.
Okay, well, Seeker's willing to respect Lucius's privacy in public.
Wait, what kind of woman was this?
Old.
Okay. What is Florian doing on the 24th? Outside of Riddle Book.
He's just gonna chill on the barge, I think, because he already did his dues.
Okay.
So he's just set for the first.
Then you can spend the day doing 1/6 of a downtime action out of Xanathar's if you so choose.
Ooh.
And what is Alex doing the day of the 24th?
What you got from these Xanthars?
So,
Outside of Warlock.
so 5 days of research, 200 gold pieces, and the research will point towards some unspecified regions, would allow me to create a bag of holding.
Okay.
So I'm going to get started on that.
Very good. Gus,
Yes.
early on in the morning,
Mm-hmm.
the sun's been up. So just to be clear, nobody else from Flumph Inc. is going to check on Gus.
That's okay. You can, I'm there for 2 days. I'm there for 2 days.
Florian would. Someone should really be at the barge, though, but fine.
You don't.
Flying Pig likes to send us shit. And he's a very vulnerable intern and secretary.
I just
to look
want
after.
to clip that. Like, nobody's going to go check on Gus, right? Ah!
Last I heard, Seeker was taking Scrappy loaded down with tomatoes to go visit Gus.
Gus, early on
That's
in
the
the
last
morning.
I heard before I locked myself in my lab.
Yeah, Florian will visit. We'll visit Gus.
Early on in the morning, Gus, before larger crowds start kind of filling up in the space, Percival Penniless and his gang are amongst the first people there. He's got 5 or 6 guys with him.
Yep.
And they kind of form up in a semicircle around you. Percival loudly declares that your imprisonment in the stocks and your public humiliation is a stain on the face of the population of Dunfoss and is just one in a long line of undeniable evidences and proofs that the nobility is corrupt, that a hero of Dunfoss, a man who very recently put his life on the line to preserve his own life and the lives of his men and the lives of the citizens. He goes on like this for some time. But the gist of it is that if anybody shows up to wing tomatoes or rotten vegetables or cow pies at you, him and his men are going to start something.
Okay.
Make an insight check.
I don't think you need to.
You have
Like, I
literally
know
nothing else to do.
Roll the die.
That is a 10, I do believe.
A 10?
Insight.
Okay.
Insight. Yeah, that is a 10.
What's Gus's reaction to all this?
He's gonna tell them they really don't need to be doing this. Just, it's fine. Go on.
And then Percival just shifts gears to just listen to the humility of this man. And he continues on his tirade against the nobility and the upper classes of Dunfoss.
Gus tightly closes his eyes and says, "Oh shh." He's like, "Oh crap."
It's very
Seeker's gonna be so mad at me.
It's becoming very clear very quickly that you're gonna have to listen to this 4 hours.
Yes, I know.
They offer no such protections to your opponent on the other side of the square. And sure enough, people do show up, and for their amusement, they gawk and jeer and mock him, throw things, splatter against the stocks and against his face. For your place, Penniless's men take on the brunt of it. And they do indeed chase off anybody who's there to mock or jeer at you. And Percival is just using this as his stage today. Using this as just the unconscionable injustice of the day that he's going to rail against. As you settle in for the next 48 hours.
This is where Gus wishes he knew the sending spell. He'd send to kill me now to Flumph. He'd be like, just come take me out.
So Lucius and Seeker going to the Kiskan embassy. How familiar is Seeker with Kiska, like Kiskan culture in general?
Probably not super familiar. I before we headed in, I'd want to get the quick rundown from Lucius, but other than that, not much.
So just for the benefit of kind of recapping quickly, because we spent a lot of time in Kiska 4 campaigns ago, but Kiska is kind of a loose amalgamation of like ancient Egypt and Aztec societies. So there is a lot of death worship, there is a lot of gladiatorial blood sport, and it's far away across the ocean. Whereas Dunfoss is kind of a melting pot of all different faiths and temples, Kiska has an actual pantheon of gods that they worship, and none so strongly as the gods of the underworld and the afterlife. They're also a very superstitious people. They believe that Tieflings have a connection to literal hell. They believe that the physical embodiment of this connection is their tail, so Tieflings born in Kiska have their tails chopped off as infants. Sort of like what happened to my poor little puppy, Lulu. I don't know why they did that, and it's really mean.
To protect her from her connection to the underworld. You were just talking about it.
It's just this little nubbin that wiggles now when she's happy.
Brickroad, don't no. We have to address this elephant that Nodal just left in the room.
You've never heard of the Hounder world?
I'm just thinking Hell Pup.
It's like
Shame, Nodal.
you know that movie All Dogs Go to Heaven? It's a lie.
It's a good movie, man. It's really
Bad
sad.
dogs go to the Hounder world.
No,
I'm just saying, Cerberus is there for a reason.
My favorite thing
about a good boy.
Nodal,
My
one
favorite
day
thing
we're
about
gonna call the
Cerberus-
police on you.
Cerberus means spot.
So the embassy in Kiska, the Kiskan embassy in Dunfoss, I should say, was established by one of the noble houses, House Humberth, in Dunfoss, who was trying for several generations, or was until 40 or 50 years ago when Juliana took the throne, was trying to establish their own lineage and power in Dunfoss by marrying a Kiskan princess. This turned into a misadventure and ended up not happening. Juliana finally, when she took the throne as the first female king of her house, kind of put an end to that. Says, we do not need to lean on bizarre foreign interests from across the ocean to have a strong country at home, and that's kind of been the sentiment in Dunfoss for the past 40 or 50 years. There was an ambassador stationed in Dunfoss, but very quickly and with little notice, he was replaced. And his replacement is supposed to be showing up in about a month. And that brings us to today.
Alright, so what's our story? Why are we going there? Lucius?
Because my reason for going there is to establish myself as a known quantity in the city. Because I am ostensibly still a Kiskan citizen, and I would need to make sure that I'm well known there prior to his arrival.
So speaking of elephants in the room, when you get to the Kiskan embassy, there is actually a live elephant in the room, and no explanation will ever be given for that.
Sure.
No, but trying to establish yourself as a Kiskan citizen. I mean, they understand your family lineage, but they're not impolite, and they don't question your nobility or your heritage, and they don't try to stonewall you from any kind of requests you make of the embassy. But how can you call yourself a Kiskan citizen in any regard and have a tail?
Simple fact of my family and many centuries ago put a stop to that practice.
Very
that
notably, they didn't. The Udocs from the first campaign did indeed have their tails amputated.
I thought we established that Jade Bull said knock that shit off.
She did, but she was not a Udoc.
Mm.
No, Jade Bull was a very loud proponent of ending this barbaric practice, but she was not Keyskin. The Udocs were. Until your branch of the family moved over to this side of the ocean.
Okay, that's not how I was. That's not how it was parsing in my head then, because
Okay.
I'm still kind of confused on that then. And shrug emoji.
Shrug emoji.
Yeah.
So what is the end goal? You're going to try to buy somebody in the embassy to report back to you?
Yeah.
What type of person are you looking for?
Probably somebody middle management kind of a deal, if that makes sense.
Keyskin
Like,
or
not
Dunfawson?
Keyskin.
Okay. So another major difference between Kiska and Dunfoss is in Kiska, the rulers of the city, is a hereditary office, more traditional. The king's son becomes the next king kind of deal.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the exasperating things, if you're Keyskin living in Dunfoss, is how there's a change of power with every new king, and the entire town culture can kind of change over just the course of a generation because of that. Keyskins find this to be very unsettling. They don't know who the king's going to be a week from now. They don't know what that person's outlook is going to be on Keyskin affairs or their embassy.
Okay.
Lucius, as a Keyskin kind of expatriate,
Mm-hmm.
and a noble besides. And does the embassy know that you're also a detective?
I imagine that that word might have made its way around town, but he wouldn't have gone out of his way to leave a business card at the Keyskin embassy.
Well, I'll explicitly let you answer the question of whether or not they do.
I would say yes.
Okay. So, given all these things, during your visit today, they're kind of taking your temperature on who do you think will be the next king, and they're taking it from the standpoint of, like, of the front runners, who is going to be the friendliest to Keyskin affairs going forward.
Well, the captain Captain Ten Sails did make a pretty forceful show of presence, but then again, it might just be a lot of sound and fury signifying nothing.
Captain Ten Sails also has a history of attacking Keyskin ships during his time as a privateer.
For my part, I would probably, if I were a betting man, I would put my money on a lady from the Court of Commons. I can't think of her name.
Journey?
What's that?
You don't mean Journey, surely?
No, the lady from the Court of Commons.
Fletcher.
Joni Fletcher.
Okay.
If I were a betting man, I'd put my money on Joni Fletcher.
How do you introduce Seeker when you come?
As a colleague from Flumph.
And Seeker, how are you spending your time at the embassy? Right now, it's kind of in a state of disarray because there's not the actual ambassador won't be here for another few weeks at least. So a lot of overturn is happening, and they're kind of sitting on their hands a little bit, waiting to see who is pronounced the next king. That seems to be the prevailing opinion of the place.
Seeker dresses more like a commoner or like a serving man,
Yeah.
and kind of just tries to keep out of sight. Like he just follows behind after Lucius and hopes that no one will mention him, because why would you? It's obvious why Seeker's there. Seeker's there serving Lucius, clearly.
Well, to that end, then, people actually do pay considerable attention to you. And I guess it would be kind of frustrating at first, because it's the exact opposite of what you're going for. But Lucius, make an insight check.
Certainly. I would love to. Not very good at these. Today, however, that's a 17.
17. In Kiska, slavery is alive and well. Not only slavery, but indentured servitude kind of situations.
Yeah.
But they take... there's an entire culture of serving people in Kiska who are former slaves that take great pride in continuing to serve the quality. So a Kiskan nobleman in Dunfoss can't have slaves.
Yeah.
Which means your gnome commoner that's following you along must be one of these prideful serving men. So they're making a show of showing him of showing respect to him. Where like a Dunfossan serving man would just be ignored for that reason. Either he's indebted to your family and should take great pride in his service and therefore should be acknowledged, or he's your slave, which can't be possible here. So they're asking lots of questions about Seeker, actually.
To that note, Seeker then will try to play that off if like someone else is talking to him,
Mm-hmm.
and will ask them if they would mind giving him a tour around the place, so that if his master ever needed him to send a message, he wouldn't have to keep him waiting.
Okay. So, Lucius, why don't you go to fantasynamegenerators.com,
Sure.
figure out who your contact is going to be here in the embassy, and how much you're paying him for this service, and how often you're paying him for this service.
Okay.
As far as getting a tour around the place, there's great debate right now whether the place should be furnished in traditional Kiskan style as a kind of representation of the culture here in Dunfoss, or whether it should reflect more contemporary Dunfoss style to downplay the differences between these two cultures. And they're not sure which way the new ambassador or the new king would rather them go. So a lot of questions unanswered. These people are kind of feeling like they're not sure if they'll be welcome here, and if so, how much longer.
Seeker starts jiggling his leg for a second because he's trying to be quiet, but he hates hearing someone say something like that when he has an answer.
Nobody says that outright, but it becomes clear that that's the case. There's just a lot of trepidation, considering they're getting a new ambassador and a new king in the near future. Seeker, go ahead and roll an insight check, though.
Okay. Bonk, bonk.
That good, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a 5.
So go ahead and figure out who your contact is going to be here. We can say that they're a Kiskan clerk who is well learned in both cultures. And this person, unless the new ambassador kind of unceremoniously fires him, will be one of the ambassador's aides.
Okay.
And I'll let you decide who that person is and how often they're getting paid, what race they are.
Okay, I got it for you.
Okay.
A human named Osman Al-Sadat, and I am paying him a 10 gold retainer every month.
Starting today.
On what day of the month?
Today is the last day of the month.
No, for Lucius. Let me add that to our.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I would say last day of the month.
Okay.
So the 24th, 25th.
24th.
Yeah.
Is the last day of every month. Let me just make a quick note of that. So this person's job is going to be to kind of report back to you the goings on at the embassy.
Mm-hmm.
Seeker, do you have any other ulterior motives you'd like to do while you're here?
No, I literally just want to be able to see all the parts of the embassy so that later if I need to cast clairvoyance, I can.
Okay. There are some locked rooms that you're not given access to. You're given some leeway being Lucius's servant.
Mm-hmm.
While Lucius is a Keyskin man and of the Keyskin nobility and the family is somewhat famous, they do also seem a little bit wary of him in general because his branch of the family specifically moved to Dunfoss to make and stake their own claim here rather than back home. And he still has a tail, which a lot of these people probably think means he's plugged directly into Satan.
Yeah, and I'll just keep note of all the areas that are locked. Because as long as I know that the door itself well, I can put it behind the door.
What part of the gnome is plugged into Garl Glittergold?
The beard.
The pointy hat.
The pointy hat.
If you know he's not doing his job.
Okay. And Florian, what time are you going to go visit Gus at the stocks?
While he's working on the puzzle book, the riddle book. So early, I suppose. The latter half of the morning action, I guess.
But in the morning.
Yeah.
And so you see the situation that I described earlier, where Percival Penniless is giving his speeches and his gang is kind of blocking people from throwing tomatoes and cowpats. Go ahead and make me an insight check.
Oh, sure. Okay. Womp womp.
Again?
Good day for insight.
Again with the womp womp? Wow.
Again with the womp womp.
Okay.
It's a pair of ones between me and Nodal.
And you're scarcely there for a moment before Penniless begins talking you up as another one of these heroes of the Shallows who stood in defense of his life and the life of his men several weeks ago when they were attacked.
Gustavus, how are you holding up? And for what it's worth, Florian he's kind of paying attention to you, but he is engrossed in this puzzle book, this riddle book.
Gus looks at like when everybody kind of looks away from him, he looks at Florian and mouths the words, "Kill me, please."
There is no time where everybody is looking away from you. You are the center of attention.
Yeah. No, I'm talking about like Percival
Ah.
and his men.
Oh, he's not looking at you at all.
I know, but I'm talking about his men.
Yeah.
Like when none of them are looking at me, I'll mouth at Florian, "Just kill me, please."
And Florian doesn't notice whatsoever. I just solved the most fascinating riddle about a traveler and some gemstones and where the gemstones were supposed to go, and it got me thinking.
Did they go up your butt?
That reminds me of a puzzle. God, those are good games.
Why would they go up my butt? No. What? Are you okay, Gustavus? You seem stressed.
Gus would be face palming if he could move his hands. So he's just kind of hanging his head, like.
Have you ever thought about the pearl that Seeker and Alexander and I all use, and how we just give it back and forth to each other and just hand it off time after time after time, using identify over and over again to identify things? If you think about it, that particular pearl all of a sudden has a very interesting story to tell. Its own kind of truth, does it not? And Florian is saying all this as he's reading from the book.
Gus is trying to get the attention of the nearest one of Percival's men.
Okay.
Kill me. Just hit me in the head until I'm unconscious, please.
He does not
Would it
do
not-
this.
Would it not be fascinating to understand the history of the pearl at that point? To know its secrets and its truths?
I'm beginning to think Florian had ulterior motives for coming down here today.
What are you talking about?
Gus can't leave.
I think I'm going to train in jeweler's tools. How does that sound?
That sounds wonderful, Florian. Hey,
I'm
Can
glad
you-
you agree, Gustavus.
can you do me a favor? Come here.
Sure.
Uh-huh.
And Florian looks up from the book for the first time.
Just come here. As close as you can. Come here. Closer. Closer.
Okay. Okay.
Closer.
Yeah.
Closer. I'm gonna headbutt him.
I think that's what a stock is designed specifically to prevent.
Just like a
It's a head
It's a-
nudge.
just a
So yeah, you give him a really inefficient headbutt.
yeah. I'm not trying
Are
to
you?
hurt him.
Are you okay, Gustavus?
No. It's just Gus is really sad now. It's like I'm
Don't-
too sober to be listening to you and them. How's
Keep your
everything
chin
at the
up.
barge?
Keep your chin up. It's only going to be for another.
You can't keep your
A+.
chin up. You're in a stocks.
Yeah, I was about to make that joke. It's like my chin is exactly where it's going to stay. Can you? How's everything at the barge?
Oh, Alexander's up to something, but other than that,
You're not.
same old, same old.
Was there smoke coming out of his room? You know, our barge has been on fire once already. We don't need a second one. Although,
If there was, I'm sure Alexander has it under control.
Alexander's idea of under control is storing 50 gallons of acid in his room.
So
would
the
like-
last thing in my notes that I have going down today, because I feel like we could all just sit here and listen to this for hours, is Seeker going to visit Caitlin Chubb?
I want to visit Caitlin Chubb, and then I want to go order an item of jewelry. I guess
What item of jewelry?
I need, in order to cast clairvoyance, I need a glass eye worth 100 gold pieces.
Oh, okay. The first thing that Caitlin wants to talk to you about is the recent legal troubles of your mutual friend Gustavus. And you can see how this might give her reservations about working with you so openly in the future.
And Seeker looks questioningly at her. What would you have done in the case? I can tell him to do that in the future.
She asks you if Gustavus ever listens to what you tell him to do.
And Seeker thinks about it for a moment and then says, most of the time.
When the conversation turns to the nature of this spell that you want to copy from her book,
Yeah.
her reservation is that this is powerful magic indeed. It's the kind of magic that if you were discovered using it, it would be virtually impossible to explain to the authorities that your reasons for doing so were legitimate.
That sounds like something to avoid. How is it possible to be discovered using it?
And she rattles off several of the means that the Blackjackets have specifically.
Seeker's paying very close attention, don't worry.
Oh, it's nothing Seeker doesn't already know.
Yeah.
Basically, think of it in terms of, in most D&D campaigns, mages get away with lots of crazy shit.
Yeah.
But imagine that somebody put together a law enforcement agency whose job it was to catch these people. So they have a countermeasure for every kind of crazy shit. This gets less and less true as you're climbing up the spell levels, but clairvoyance is 3rd level, which isn't that high. Make an insight check as she's feeling you out on these issues and kind of describing some things. Somebody's going to pass an insight check today, I'm confident. Maybe.
I rolled a 1 and a 3 for my earlier today.
Sure.
I mean, you're due.
Oh,
there
it is. That's a 22.
Partway through the conversation, she's always been a little cagey with you. Like, she always wants you to make sure that you know she's doing you a big favor kind of person. But it becomes clear kind of partway through the conversation, she's not trying to make sure you're not going to use this spell for illicit means. You start getting the sense that there's a way she wants to use it without getting caught.
Uh-huh. And Seeker will kind of just like nod along with her discussion of like how it's possible to be caught doing this, and then say, yes, it sounds like it would be very important indeed to not be caught using this in some sort of illicit means, and I just want you to know that I would never be found doing so. I appreciate the trust that you've given in me.
She asks if she would be remiss, given the nature of the spell you're inquiring about, if she could impose upon you to embolden that trust.
And Seeker looks pensive for a moment, and then says, well, I'm not sure. I wouldn't want to strain our relationship. You and I formed a agreement on committing a certain deed for you, and in exchange you would help Gus and I in our needs. And I was talking to Gus the other day, and he just seemed a little concerned.
She tells
Actually,
you
no, wait, no, Gus, I didn't get a chance to talk to Gus after that. Never mind.
You can lie to her.
Strike it.
Non-cipher bonus.
Yeah, non-cipher bonus. Strike it. But Seeker will just say, I wouldn't want to have it be said that either of us were going outside of the bounds of our previous agreement. Now, if you want to make a new agreement...
She asks you, and this seems kind of out of character for her, because she's usually not quite this blunt.
Mm-hmm.
But she asks you very clearly if you love king and country.
And Seeker thinks for a moment on it, and then says, I've found this to be a tolerably good place to live. The citizenry seems happy.
But surely it's frustrating for a man of your profession to dwell under a king who's so mistrustful of magic.
And Seeker shrugs and says, kings come and go. These things change. I tend to not try to get too worried about it in the moment.
But if you love your king, and there was a way that you could help him that he would not approve of, for example, the use of magic, would this be your duty as a citizen, out of love for the crown?
And Seeker says, I can see how a citizen who found himself in such circumstances might be found to use means that the king found distasteful.
And of course, the king need never know. Need never make a judgment that it was distasteful, as long as it was in service to the crown to begin with.
And Seeker kind of frowns at how blunt she's being about that, and then just says, well, I don't see any reason why the king need to find out about things distasteful to him.
And if, say, an old woman, a seer, a diviner who was once trusted by the crown and previous holders of the throne, saw an opportunity to use her skills in service of the current king who mistrusts her, this would be a good thing for her to pursue.
It might be a good thing to pursue, although I would caution this hypothetical person that if she thought that the king would find it distasteful that she had done so, it would be very difficult to find any kind of recognition for having done so.
She nods. And she says, recognition. So, if I'm understanding you correctly, perhaps if a woman were to find herself in this position, knowing that she's being watched by the mistrustful king, though she loves him, she would be more apt to find another person who uses her same skill sets to carry out the task instead. Somebody who is not under such scrutiny. And then the crowd need never know.
That seems like a reasonable supposition, yes.
She smiles very broadly. Your answer has pleased her. You weren't lying, were you?
No, I mean, Seeker's rates are very reasonable.
Here's the deal.
Yeah.
There's an alchemist shop called Clud Maps. It's located in West Harbor underneath this bridge in the Temple District. She'll teach you this clairvoyant spell, and she will loan to you the means to cast it in terms of having the little glass eye or whatever is required. Yeah. What she wants you to do is visit this shop in the next few days. She actually gives you a very narrow time frame in the evening, either today or tomorrow or both, to cast this spell in the shop without being noticed, and its duration is up to 10 minutes.
Yep.
Whether you use the sight or hearing function is up to you. But she needs to know what's going on in that shop at those times.
Okay, what is she going to do in return? Because she mentioned teaching me the divination spell, but we already did something for her in order to get that. Seeker's not doing anything for free. And he's certainly not doing business with someone who's going to change their previous agreements.
Make a persuasion check.
Alright. That is a 16.
You can tell that she definitely doesn't see it this way. She sees this as within the bounds of your previous agreement, especially considering this is a spell whose only real use is spying on people. And you can tell that by not reporting you knowing the spell to people, by not letting others know, oh yeah, I taught him this clairvoyant spell. Oh yeah, Seeker in the Dark, he's definitely spying on people. She sees this as a service that she's giving you. Nobody need to ever know where you got this magic from.
And Seeker's take on that matter is that if she thinks she's going to keep people from thinking that someone named the Seeker in the Dark might know their secrets, she should maybe try to find someone else to hold over a barrel.
How expensive is this?
It's 100 gold.
She says if you do this task to her satisfaction, and you see it as a service for a service, she could be persuaded to provide you with a permanent eye that you can use as a component for the spell.
Seeker will nod, that seems fair, and he's always happy to continue amicable business arrangements with people. And so then does she have the eye on hand already?
She has the one that she uses.
Yeah.
What she's going to do is construct or acquire one for you to use. She's going to teach you the spell and let you scribe it.
Yep.
So whatever costs you have associated with that. go ahead and pay.
Uh-huh.
And she'll loan you her glass eye for now.
Okay.
And yeah, she does give you a pretty tight window of time. It's at some point this evening at dusk, either today or tomorrow or both.
Okay. And Seeker doesn't want to break the agreement. Like, he wants to make sure he knows exactly what she wants. He says these sort of spells can only be cast a certain number of times.
Mm-hmm.
If he casts a spell and he sees nothing, he's going to report that. He's not going to make something up. So he wants her to be very certain that she knows when she wants the spell to be cast.
And to that end, Seeker's always going to find himself frustrated in his dealings with Caitlin Chubb. Because he can never pin her down on the exact wording of any contract or agreement.
Mm-hmm.
She is a slippery and slimy kind of woman. But she definitely doesn't want you to make anything up.
Mm-hmm.
And at this, I do have to take a quick break, guys.
You got it.
To do some puppy training. Take the dogs outside real quick. So let's, if we can, break for 10 minutes.
Yep.
Seeker. You're planning to do the spell tonight or tomorrow or both? Which of those three?
I'll do it both, unless I found something significant the first time.
Okay. Go ahead and give me a either stealth or deception check.
Uh-huh.
And
Intelligence deception, because I'm doing it with a spell?
Yeah, that's fair. And just mark the total, and when we come back in about 10 minutes, we'll see how that went.